Welcome back to another episode of Brando's World of X Games, another quarantine edition. Hope y'all are staying safe out there. Before we intro our next guest, a legend, mind you, let us know in the comment section, who do you want to see on this show? We exist because of you, the fans. So hit us up in the comment section. Let us know who you want us to put on the show. So without further ado, let's bring him on, the owner of 20 X Games medals, the most dominant athlete in X Games history. Y'all know him as Sparky, Mark McMorris. Mark, welcome to the show.
What an introduction. Thank you kindly, Bren.
No one does it like me.
Yeah, man. No one really does. That's why you got the gig you got.
That's why they put my name on the show. That's why.
Right, because it's Brando's world.
Mark, talk to us about quarantine in this global pandemic. I hope you're staying safe. Where are you these days?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy right now. Hard to not let the mind wander on what the future brings or what could come of this, but trying to just stay positive. And I'm trying to stay busy, stay positive, stay active. I'm here in Haleiwa, Hawaii, and we're just chilling. We're allowed to surf still, so I got to surf in this morning, and basically just living to get in the water a couple times a day and do some Zoom workouts with the trainer back in Vancouver, Damian Maroney. But other than that, yeah, just kind of living like everyone else. It's pretty bizarre right now.
Yeah, being isolated is tough for anyone across the globe. But now you've got me thinking of, like, how do we make lemonade out of lemons? Where would be the best place to be quarantined? Forget home, just geographical location. I think you win.
I think I got the W on that one. I'm very, very, very thankful to be here. I got here just in time before flying was really frowned upon, and I zipped here straight from a Burton One World movie shoot in Alaska, Anchorage, direct to Honolulu, and posted at Coco's house. We've been surfing, and like I said, just trying to stay active and keep our minds off the aggressive news that is amongst us all.
Well, speaking of that, you've really been leading the pack, I would say, as far as awareness and donations are concerned. For PPE and the healthcare workers in Canada. Talk to us about your all that.
Yeah, I was feeling a little bit sort of down in the dumps about it all, and I hit up Adam and Haley Wickenheiser, and I was like, how can I help? Because I'm so fortunate to be able to do what I do for a living, and I am currently not really doing anything for a living. I'm just sitting around surfing and doing whatever. I was like, I need to donate some money to something that's going to help these frontline workers. So within a day, I was able to get connected with Haley Wickenheiser and donate $5,000 and hit up 4 close friends of mine. One's a PGA player and then 3 NHL players. And they all hit me back with, like, I'll match it 100%. It's pretty insane how quick we were able to raise $25,000, and it's not the most amount of money. It's not the least amount of money, but it helps. And I'm open to donating more as well. So I'm going to keep my eyes on certain causes, and any way I can help is it's a good feeling. It feels like you're doing something.
No, you absolutely are, and major props to you for really leading this brigade and raising awareness for sure. As we said off the top, 20 XX, that's pretty significant. You passed Shaun White for the all-time medal record for Winter X Games athletes. Now that we're about a month or so removed from topping that list at X Games Norway, has it set in? How's it feel?
Yeah, it's a dream come true. Like I said in many interviews prior, I just wanted to be in the X Games. I just wanted to be a pro snowboarder. I never had dreams or aspirations of being, quote unquote, one of the best to ever do it. That's
the best. The best. I said it.
Thanks, Brandon. That's some crazy stuff to think about right there. It feels feels really good, but every time you mention it, I gotta pinch myself. That's an accomplishment that I'll take to the grave, and I'm very happy. And I want to get to at least 25, so I got some work ahead of me, and it feels pretty neat to have the all-time record for winter medals.
25, that's interesting. Had you always had that number circled, or now that you've gotten to 20, you're like, what's that next milestone?
Yeah, well, a man by the name of Steve Ruff was hanging at my condo at the Dew Tour, and I think I was at 18 at this point, and he was just like, "You're gonna get to 25, dude, 100%. I know you can." And then right then and there, it was instilled in my head, and obviously wasn't thinking about that in Norway or anything. I just wanted to do my best. But now that I have 20, I can definitely see that light, and I know my body and my riding's capable of getting 5 more. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
do my very best to do that.
One of the best moments I feel like in just watching your career actually was that interview that you did post Big Air in X Games Norway with Jack Matrani. And it was just so raw. And I thought even in the moment, you were so measured, you know, and so gracious of those before you and those that you were riding alongside. And that was really neat to see. And I think about the guys that you have ridden with, but specifically, I think about the battle, and it really unfolded at X Games Norway with you and Max Perot. And over the years, what a rivalry that has been. You ended up winning Big Air. He won slopestyle at X Games Norway. But it's just interesting to look back now. In the heat of the moment, you probably aren't thinking much of it, but now that the dust has settled, you really seemingly pushed each other over the years.
Oh, for sure. Max and I have been going toe to toe since he first came onto the X Games in 2014. So 6 years of battling it out year after year and contest after contest. So it was really nice to get to Norway, and for one, just to see him snowboarding again. The guy's an absolute animal. He's been through some really tough times, and I can relate with him on that level. And then just his love for doing the best he can do is pretty inspiring. He's a very calculated man and an incredible trickster. So it was really good to battle it out, and I'm glad I got him in Big Air, which I didn't think would be the case going into that contest. If there was anywhere I was going to get him, it'd be slopestyle. But I got him in Big Air, and then he came to play the next day in slopestyle. And to be honest, Big Air could have went either way, and slopestyle could have went either way with that jam format. Who knows? I landed 3 out of 4 runs in slope. He landed 3 out of 4 runs. And then in Big Air, I went 5 for 5, and he went 4 for 5. So it was really in the judges' hands, and that's the way it goes a lot of times. But it feels really good to rise and ride to the best of your ability, and I think we both did that. And yeah, it was just a really special weekend. I think it worked out really well, and people seemed hype, and I'm really glad we got it in before all this took place, and everyone came back healthy and happy and safe. So good times, and I really look forward to the next one.
Well, that was the most recent one. I'd love to take a stroll down memory lane to your first ever X Games. What were you, 16-year-old, 17-year-old Sparky making his X Games debut?
Yeah,
Getting called up to the big show. You remember that moment?
I can remember it very, very well. I was at home for Christmas. I had just got to do the Dew Tour for the first time, and I made it all the way through the qualifications to the finals and got second under Torstein Horgmo. This is in 2010. Went home for Christmas before 2011 had come upon us. I got a call from Gunny, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the X Games, and I was running around like a middle school girl, freaking out, so excited. I couldn't believe I was going to go to the X Games, and that was a turning point. And like sort of just when someone believes in you to be there, you start to have that belief like, oh, I'm meant to be here. I can hang with these guys. And then boom, I'm at the X Games 2011 into Big Air on Friday night, rode pretty well for that time in snowboarding. Thought I was going to get third, ended up fourth. Next day comes upon us. Very happy to be in the slopestyle final. I fell on run 1 and 2, and then on my very last run, ended up getting second and put down a really good slopestyle run. And I couldn't believe I had an X Games medal. I think it played on something, or I was tagged in something recently where I land my run and get my score, and I didn't even know what to do. I just like walked out of there, but they're like, no, stay, you know, like you're on the podium. And I just like left and went, hung out with my parents. I was just so hyped. But just little things like that, and you learn a lot, and those memories definitely stick with me and are very fond, Brandon.
Yeah, I think about that, getting a medal in your very first X Games, and then man, it took off, right? You went double gold in 2012 in big air and slope, and it was like Mark McMorris has officially arrived.
That was special. Yeah, then yeah, true. 2011, and then that later that winter, I did first ever backside triple cork, and then I think I went to teens and didn't do it because I was so scary and fresh. And then I got a medal, I think, in teens, and then I went to the Art of Flight shoot with Travis Rice, which was another huge moment in my career. I couldn't believe I was getting the call from Travis. And I did one in Aspen that spring, and that was in maybe April. And then a whole year almost went by till X Games Aspen, Big Air 2012, and I tried it again for the first time. And that was kind of a sort of like a punching match or a boxing match between Torstein and myself. I tried one, he tried one, I tried one, got it. He tried one, got it. And obviously it was your two best jumps, and I ended up getting the nudge for the win, which was super. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, I have an X Games gold medal and I'm 18 years old and going into slopestyle the next night. And sure enough, got another one. And it just things you don't ever foresee, things you didn't think were possible. And when they come true, there's really no better feeling on earth.
You bring up the triple cork and the evolution of that trick, as you said, dialing it in outside of the contests. Talk to us about sort of the genesis of that trick, because obviously it's certainly a staple for all big air and slope style snowboarding, but somebody had to kind of be the one to take the training wheels off, and that was you. So talk to us about sort of the progression of that trick.
Yeah, so I was sort of on the forefront of the backside one. Torstein in 2011 was flinging like a frontside version,
Right.
but he had done a frontside triple cork 14 the previous summer. So in 2011, he was trying frontside, but kind of doing like a triple backflip frontside 180, and it wasn't really working. And then he learned the backside one after I had done it first, and then we both started doing the backside triple cork at X Games Big Air 2012. And from that moment on, it's been a trick that pretty much any pro snowboarder that wants to be in it to win it had to learn. And could probably name 100 guys that can do it now. So it's crazy how it became a staple in our sport, and glad to be one of the guys that made that happen. And yeah, it's had a long history, and it still comes into play. That trick is more of like a qualifying trick now, believe it or not, but it was very scary and very hard at one point, and now with just people and evolution making it seem of norm.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about the year when quad corks really made their debut at X Games, and we saw a couple of guys put them down or do some variation of it. And I remember in big air, you tried to put down a quad, if I remember correctly, and your brother and
Yeah.
I were like, "Has he ever done that before?" And I don't think Mark's ever tried to do a quad before.
Yeah, that was pretty frustrating that I even tried that. I think that was in 17,
Yeah,
maybe. And
yeah,
the
that
jump
sounds right.
the jump just had way too much compression for my style of spinning backside. And like, for instance, this year, the jump had no compression and like I could stand super tall in Aspen and I'm sure I could have done a quad. Like I know if I take off right, I can do it. It's just kind of scarred from that one I put on my back in 17.
Yeah.
And I don't need it to win, and it's
Yeah.
just like a circus trick. So I'm just like, maybe not until it's something I need
Were
every
you
time or to even contend. Sorry.
right? Were you afraid of that time? We're talking now 3 years ago. Not afraid, but I suppose just like the evolution of the triple cork, now the quad's coming into play. Couple of guys have it. Now you're starting to think, oh, is that the next trick that we all have to have in our arsenal? So far, that hasn't played out that way as far as contests are concerned. But at that time, were you thinking, shoot, I got to dial this
Yep.
in?
Yep. 17. That was definitely the thoughts running through my head. Oh my God, this is going to be the new standard. Holy crap. Jumps aren't big enough. Super dangerous. If you don't rotate it, there's just too much momentum going one way. And if you hook an edge and go the other way, you're going to die basically. Like it's just such a sketchy trick. And so much, risk involved that I was pretty bummed out on like, holy crap, if this happens, this isn't going to be that fun for anyone. And surely it didn't because people got broke off trying it and the jumps weren't big enough and the consistency on that trick wasn't there and there wasn't people really motivated to go out there and like do it as a trick all the time. So here we are 3 years later and there'll still be the oddball that'll fling one or there'll be a big air where the jump works good enough where someone can get one around. But other than that, you don't see it that much, which I'm pretty happy about because I just don't think the reward is worth the risk on that one.
Yeah, I hear you on that. The fact that all of a sudden 20 X Games medals, you're at this, still definitely at the peak of your career, but it wasn't that long ago as we rehash memories of that first X Games where you were a part of that young gun crew, and I think about those guys over the years of really when you started to get your feet wet at X Games and just contests in general. I think about yourself and Seb and Stale and Max and Sven once upon a time. And now I think about this next generation over the last couple of winters that have really presented themselves, whether it be, Judd Hankis or a Brock Crouch, Luke Winkleman, Lion Farrell, all these guys, yeah, Reggie, who in the blink of an eye, is that same kind of crew that it feels like that maybe 8 or 9 years ago was you and the boys, and now this next crop is rising up, riding alongside you. Do you ever marvel at that? And not to say that you're the old guy, but you just now look at this generation of like 17 to 20-year-old riders who have really started to get going in the last couple of winters.
Totally. There was when I was coming up into it and we were sort of the young guns getting onto the scene, I can vividly remember it sort of changing every couple years with the guard prior to our generation. Um, and then once we set in 2010, 2011, nothing really like was nipping at our heels that hard. There were people trying, but the progression was so gnarly. And we had a group of kids in the same age that were pushing it so hard that the the 14 to 17 year olds couldn't really like catch us once we were 20 and whatever. And then now this 2000 era group of kids is insane. It's so scary seeing the start list and it's like born in 2000, born in 2001. You're just like, what? How are like these? Oh my god! And yeah, they're amazing. That group is super fun. A lot of them are really fun, and I like the way a lot of them hold themselves, and I like the way a lot of them ride. And I'm excited to see what they can do. But they're definitely pushing me and making it a lot harder for me, and making me making me come up with new runs and new ideas and things like that, which is how progression happens. And it's been really fun riding with them, and I have a pretty good relationship with all them, and excited to see what they do, and excited to help mentor them.
Speaking about before the quarantine, you said you were in Alaska filming for that Burton One World video. How is that? And obviously, given what's transpired really over the last 6 months or so with Burton and certainly your dear and close friend and mentor Jake Burton, I'm just curious how A, that project is going, and B, what moments are like for you now since Jake's unfortunate passing.
Yeah, very excited that Burton is making a film again. It's been 5 or 6 years since we made something like that. Obviously, it's been an unfortunate end to the year, but prior to all this, Jake was so on board and so excited that we were going to make a film again, and was even more rider driven than he had ever been. We were making separate catalogs, like rider catalogs, how they used to do back in the day, where they would like show everyone's setup, what gear they're riding. Like it was sort of circling back into the late 90s, early 2000s on how they marketed stuff pretty much strictly with their riders and not models or like these interesting campaign shoots or whatever it may be. It sort of circled back around, like, what's our bread and butter? And it's snowboarding. And Jake believed in snowboarding more than anything, and he believed in the athletes more than anything. It was those two things. He loved product development, and he loved getting the feedback from the riders. That was his shit. So yeah, it was super sad when he passed. Obviously, I was super close with Jake, so the start of the season wasn't what I'd hoped it'd be, and really tough because when you're around snowboarding, that's him, so you're reminded of it everywhere you go, everything you do, every fan that comes up to you. It's just like, dude, he made all this possible for me, and he supported me more than anyone. And yeah, it's really tough, but starting to find the positives in it all. And he left me with a lot, and he left us with a pretty clear vision on how to carry things out, and he left the whole company in good hands. So yeah, it's tough, but it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, no, I hear you. One of the cool projects that you got to be a part of and let us peek into that became a World of X Games series was Brothers McMorris, and that was really rad to see you and Craig and really all of your friends kind of come together in a 3-part series and do some pretty amazing things to show the world. What was that experience like?
Yeah, thank you, X Games, for the tremendous support on that. That was a ton of fun getting to play that one out. We had this idea where we wanted to cover sort of all 3 sides of snowboarding, and I'm always on the contest side, which is its own sort of beast. And I got to link up with my brother, who I don't get to spend a ton of time with in the winter, due to his filming obligations and whatever it may be. He's sort of on his own path, and I'm over here going contest to contest. So to take a year and do a little bit less competing and focus on that Brothers McMorris project, where we got to go to Finland and spend some time with Eero Ettila, sort of the king of European street riding worldly, really globally. And Finland is just sort of the spot to do it. There's no heat. You don't get kicked out of spots. There's tons of snow. And we had a ton of fun there, and got to from there go to Alaska, to the Tordrillo Mountain Lodge, where we spent a lot of time sitting around waiting due to weather. But in Alaska, you have to be present to win. So we waited and waited and waited, and eventually got some really good conditions and got to be there with the absolute goat of that side of riding, Travis Rice. So a true pleasure there. And then we got to bring all our friends, all the little buddies, all the 2000 babies to Aspen, where we unfolded a beautiful park setup for us all to jam on for 6 or 7 days, and had some pretty good weather and got a lot of good shots. So the series ended up being something I was really proud of. We had a great crew working on it, a crew that actually filmed a lot with our MTV show, sort of skate influenced boys from Vancouver who are amazing storytellers and came along with us. So it was just like from the riders to the production crew, really close friends of ours, and they told the story properly in a light we were happy with. So it was truly a treat to do that. And just spend time with Craig, you know, that's always fun. He makes snowboarding fun for me.
Yeah. He makes everything fun for everyone. Speaking of Craig and your brother, he competed once again in real snow, put down a banger part. Obviously earned a medal last year. Rene Renecongas taking gold. It was a sweep for Rene in both the judge portion and the fan vote. And it was a completely psycho part. So much fun to watch. I'm curious for you, would you, if you got the call for real snow, would you consider competing? Is that something you'd ever dream of doing?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not opposed to it. I had a ton of fun watching Rene, and Rene's not just a street snowboarder, and he is an amazing all-around snowboarder, and he went out there and whooped everyone. And I don't know if he's in there, if I want to be in there, but no, I'm just kidding. No, I would love to do it. I was really proud of Rene, and I'm really proud of Craig. Everyone that was in that put together an absolutely mind-bending part. And but yeah, hearing the stories from Craig, it's not all glamour and glitter out there in the streets. And I went to the streets a little bit last year in Finland, and yeah, it's a ton of hard work and you beat yourself up. But seeing those parts come together is pretty rad. And yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's not on the top of my list, but you never know. I'm always down to try and get some more X Games medals.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate the time, man, and thank you so much for joining us. And again, watching at home, if there's someone else you want to see, let us know in the comments section. We want to put the guests on that y'all want to see, so let us know who you want to see next on Brando's World of X Games. But Mark, thank you again. It's an absolute pleasure, my friend. Take care of yourself, stay safe, and all the best to you and yours and the entire McMo family, man.
Thank you kindly, Brandon. I had a blast being on here with you, and I'm enjoying watching the rest of the episode. So can't wait to see who you have next. And thanks, X Games.
What an endorsement. If Mark is watching, that means you need to as well. Thanks, Marky. Take care, Spark.
Cheers, buddy. You too.
Yo.